Today we're going to get a look at the top 3 units for each rarity and squad busters, not based off of my opinion, but based off of what people are actually picking in the top 100 ranked before the first ladder reset that has ever happened in squad busters. And this is really exciting to see, not what people think is good, but what the best players are actually picking. And I gotta give a huge thank you to Pokerface126 on Reddit for going in and compiling all of this information. Use the timestamps in the description to navigate to whichever part you'd like. Consider subscribing for daily Squad Busters videos. And before we review what everyone in the top 100 is doing, let's get a look at what I'm choosing, and I'm currently ranked 42 on the ladder. I have played over 3,000 battles, ranked 42 on the leaderboard at the time of this recording, and here are my top 3 commons. It's a Colt, followed by Shelly, and then Barbarian. And this actually makes sense to me. I said recently, the number 1 starting pick in the game is a Barbarian, and Barbarian is fine to pick as you go into the match. The Shelly also amazing and has the opportunity to heal herself. The only thing that should maybe be a little surprising to you is the fact that I have Colt at number 3. You might have expected me to have the Heavy, based on what I said in a recent video, where I said starting with a Heavy is a better choice than starting with a Colt. Why is that? Well, the Heavy will heal himself, and the Colt is squishy, and if you don't fuse him right away, someone's gonna come along and pick off your Colt, and you're gonna be really, really sad. But the burst DPS on a Colt is undeniably good. So my 3 are Barb, Shelly, Colt. At the rare tier, it should not be surprising that my number 1 pick is Hog Rider. I am very surprised that my number 2 is Medic, and my number 3 is Tank. I really feel like Jesse is going to dramatically change this. I would put probably Hog as my number 1, Tank as my number 2, and Jesse as my number 3, the way I'm drafting today, which brings us to the epics. So at the epic tier, I've actually got the Battle Healer as my most picked epic, which is surprising to me. And this is because I played literally like 2,000 plus games before I had Ultra units. Now that I have Ultra units, I would say my number 1 prio is the BK, followed by the Queen, followed then probably by Max or Battle Healer. But what we have here is the Battle Healer, we've got the BK, and then we've got Max. So let's see how this stacks up with what people are picking in the top 100. Now, the way that Pokerface126 did this analysis is he looked at what every single player in the top 100 had, and he'd give points based on how they ranked them. So if they had them as their most picked unit, you get 3 points. Second most picked unit, you get 2 points. Third most picked unit, it will get 1 point, and then you get a total score for each unit. So the unit with the 3rd highest score is a Colt at 119 for the commons. We talked about why Colt is good. Burst DPS is very strong in this game. Keep in mind that you don't see the Traitor, Bow, Rag, Chicken, Goblin, heck, even Heavy, Mavis, and El Primo are at the very bottom of this list. 0 people are picking Mavis and El Primo as their tops. And, you know, look, it makes sense that these are not the most picked because El Primo is missing the DPS, as I've described to you. The Mavis and the Greg, you only ever want one of them. Bo is only good versus PvE. It is surprising to see Traitor is not in the top 3. That is really interesting. Shelly is the number 2 with 140 points, but the overwhelming, unanimous number 1 is the Barbarian at 225 points. Now, I made a dedicated video all about the secrets of the Barbarian, exactly how much damage you boost you get from his Enrage, what it means to flip Elite, and he is the most DPS you can get out of any common unit. What most people don't know is that although he recently had his health buffed, it was only for his non-elite form, according to the Royale API website. So the non-elite form of the Barbarian got 200 more hit points, which I think is a good thing because, man, I was just finding my solo barbs were a little bit vulnerable to getting popped, but whatever. There's your common units. The most drafted, Barb, Shelly, Colt, followed by Traitor. Traitor is right up there. Heavy is actually very far down on the list. I think that is in part because you only get access to Heavy much later on. You've already played hundreds of games, probably, by the time you unlock a Heavy. And also, I would say that Heavy just misses out on burst DPS in a meta where speed and burst DPS is where it's at. So let's get a look at the rares. And this I found to be really surprising. This is before really players have had enough opportunity to play with Jesse, to see Jesse show up on this list. The number 3 pick for most people is actually the Nita. Nita had a total score of 40, however, which is really low. And there was a lot of variety in what people were picking beyond just 2 things. The 2 things that everybody had was tank and hog. Like almost everybody had those. In fact, only 5 people did not have a hog rider in their top 3, which is surprising. Only 8 people did not have a tank in their top 3, which is very surprising. Like very, very surprising. I don't know what those guys are doing, but the tank had a total score of 192, and the hog rider had a total score of 263. So hog rider is the most picked unit, and 78 people out of 100 in the top 100 had the hog rider as their number 1 pick, which is crazy. But we know hog's good. Hog is so good. So what are we talking about? Yes, hog is deserving of the number 1 spot. I think that if you reset the tracking for this and started fresh, you'd find that Jesse would be number 3. Jesse is good at the very start. Jesse is good in the middle, not so good at the end. But hog is good beginning, middle, end. Tank is good beginning, middle, end, and that's why you see them up at the top. And my medic pick here, I mean, medic had 27 points overall. So, I mean, it's like on there. It's medic at 27, wizard and penny at 26, Pam at 17, B at 7, and Dynamite at 2. 2 people love their Dynamites, and I find that to be surprising. So let's jump down to the epics. Epic tier, number 3 pick overall, with a total score of 111, is the Barbarian King. The Barbarian King was way ahead of the next pick, number 4, which is the Witch. Battle Healer is very low on this list. I'm actually the only person in the entire top 100 that has Battle Healer as their number 1 most drafted epic, but that is not the way I play today. Once I got to Ultras, it just completely changed that. Mortis, only 3 people had it at number 3, and so 3 points total. And Royale King, 2 people love the Royale King. That's actually really, really, really surprising, but whatever. Barbarian King is at number 3, Max is at number 2 with 175, and the Archer Queen is number 1 with 253. Now, I'm not surprised that a lot of people are picking the Archer Queen over the BK, because when you think about what units you're drafting in your squad, all of the best units seem to be range units. We're talking about not Hog Rider, not Barbarian, but other than those, your Medic is ranged, your Max is ranged, your Pam is ranged, your Colt is ranged, your Tank is ranged, your Penny is ranged, your Jesse is ranged. I mean, your Shelley is ranged. It is just completely unsurprising to see Queen at the top. But what I think is the best priority, if you have Ultras, which most people don't, is going to be BK number 1 for the Super Rage spell, Queen number 2 because she's the GOAT, and then probably number 3 is your Max, followed by Battle Healer at number 4. That's where I think that should be. All in all, I think this list is really awesome, and if you want to see this kind of analysis on a regular basis, consider subscribing. And if you want to see what I think the very best picks are for the start of a game, check the card in the end screen right over here. Or maybe you want to see my overall tier list explaining the best units and squad busters. I'll explain it all way in depth. Check the cards. Really valuable stuff.